the loudest man in the room is always the weakest. Think about it. When someone disrespects you, when they throw an insult or try to humiliate you in front of others, what is your first instinct? If you are like 99% of men, your heart rate spikes, your jaw clenches, you feel an overwhelming, burning desire to fight back, to defend your honor, to destroy them with words. But here is the brutal, unspoken truth. The moment you open your mouth to defend yourself, you have already lost. You have handed the remote control of your emotional state over to a clown. Today we are going to completely rewire how you handle disrespect. I'm going to give you the exact single phrase you need to say when someone tries to provoke you. It is a psychological weapon used only by men with elite emotional control. This is the essence of true, modern Stoicism. But before we reveal it, I want you to answer a question down in the comments.
What is the one thing people do that instantly triggers your anger? Be honest. Write it down right now, because by the end of this video, that trigger will no longer exist.
We're living in an era designed to make you emotionally fragile. Every single day, your attention and your patience are being tested. You face passive-aggressive co-workers, disrespectful partners, toxic bosses, and absolute strangers on the internet whose sole purpose is to get a reaction out of you. The modern world profits off your outrage. Society expects you to be reactive. It expects you to jump at every shadow and bite at every hook. And this is exactly why so many men are exhausted, anxious, and deeply unhappy. They spend all their masculine energy fighting invisible wars against people who do not even matter. Every time you react to a provocation, you leak power. You step down from your throne to wrestle in the mud. And the tragedy is, even if you win the argument, you leave covered in dirt. The problem is not that people are disrespectful. The problem is that you believe their disrespect requires your participation.
It is time to establish a new baseline. It is time to build an impenetrable psychological fortress, a place where their words bounce off you like rain off solid concrete.
The anatomy of an insult. To master your response, you must first understand the true nature of an insult. When someone tries to provoke you, they are not actually attacking your character. They are projecting their own internal chaos onto you. Think about it. A truly powerful, content man does not waste his time trying to belittle others. He is too busy building his empire. The man who hurls an insult is drowning in his own insecurity. He feels small, insignificant, and powerless in his own life. To temporarily escape this feeling of worthlessness, he tries to drag you down to his level. This is a crucial realization. The provocation is never about you. It is a desperate cry for significance from a weak mind. When you understand this, the insult loses all its power. It becomes noise. You stop seeing an enemy and start seeing a pathetic attempt at emotional robbery. They want your anger because your anger validates their existence.
If you get mad, they matter. If you lose your temper, they have successfully hijacked your emotional system. This is the ultimate trap for the modern man. 99% of men fall into this trap every single day. They let absolute nobodies dictate their heart rate and their focus. But you are not going to do that anymore. You are going to build a fortress around your mind. You are going to look at the provocateur not with anger, but with cold, clinical observation. The trap of the immediate reaction. Your brain is biologically wired to protect you. Millions of years ago, a threat meant physical danger, and your body responded with a surge of adrenaline, fight or flight. But today, the threat is rarely a physical predator.
It is usually just a fragile ego trying to start an argument at the office. Yet your brain still pumps that same adrenaline into your veins. The urge to snap back, to raise your voice, to deliver a crushing comeback is incredibly intoxicating. It feels like action. It feels like power. But it is an illusion. Reacting immediately is the ultimate surrender of control. When you react in anger, you are behaving like a puppet on a string. The person who provoked you pulled the string and you danced exactly how they wanted you to dance. That is not strength. That is peak emotional weakness. A strong man does not dance for anyone. He dictates the tempo of every interaction.
By pausing, by refusing to give them the immediate gratification of your anger, you instantly break their psychological momentum. You cut the strings. The silence that follows a provocation is heavier than any insult you could ever throw back. It shows that you're not run by your primitive instincts, but by your higher intellect. The power of the pause. There is a sacred space between a stimulus and your response. In that space lies your absolute freedom. The weak man does not know this space exists. For him, the stimulus and the response are tied together with an iron chain. He is insulted, so he shouts. He is cut off in traffic, so he rages. But the elite man, the modern Stoic, lives inside that pause. When someone tries to provoke you, your first weapon is not a word. It is a deliberate, agonizingly slow pause. You do not look away. You do not flinch. You simply stop moving. You let the echo of their stupid remark hang in the air. This pause does three things simultaneously. First, it prevents your own adrenaline from taking over your vocal cords. Second, it signals to the other person that their words did not penetrate your armor. And third, it creates an unbearable social pressure. People hate silence. They rush to fill it. By giving them nothing but a calm, steady gaze, you force them to sit with the awkwardness of their own toxic behavior. Often, in that silence, they will begin to backpedal, stutter, or try to explain away their insult. You have won the battle before you have even opened your mouth. The pause is the ultimate display of psychological supremacy. Redefining disrespect. You have been taught a lie about disrespect. Society tells you that if you do not defend yourself against every slight, you are a coward. This is a slave mentality. It assumes that your value is determined by the words of the crowd. Let us redefine what disrespect actually is. Disrespect is a gift of negative energy that someone is trying to hand to you. If a stranger walked up to you on the street and tried to hand you a bag of garbage, would you take it? Would you hold it to your chest and get angry about how bad it smells? Of course not. You would look at them like they were insane, and you would keep walking. An insult is exactly the same thing. It is verbal garbage. When someone disrespects you, they are simply holding out the bag. You do not have to accept it. You can leave it in their hands. This is what sets a strong man apart. He realizes that accepting the insult, internalizing it, and getting angry is a choice. You are actively choosing to take the garbage. Once you realize this, it becomes incredibly easy to stay calm. You simply observe the person holding their trash, realize it has absolutely nothing to do with your inherent value, and you choose to leave it right where it belongs, with them. The 1% mindset. What separates the top 1% of men from the rest of the herd? It is not just money or physical strength or status. It is the uncompromising conservation of their life energy. Elite men view their focus, their time, and their emotional state as their most valuable assets. They guard these assets with brutal efficiency. Every time you get pulled into a petty argument, every time you let someone provoke you into a rage, You are spending your most valuable currency on something completely worthless. The 1% mindset dictates that you never invest emotional capital into a losing trade, and arguing with a fool is always a losing trade. You cannot reason with someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. You cannot logic someone out of a position they did not logic themselves into. The provocateur wants to drag you into a maze of their own confusion. The elite man looks at the maze, smiles, and refuses to enter. He knows that his purpose, his mission, and his goals require all of his available energy. He looks at the person trying to provoke him not as a threat, but as a distraction. And a strong man never lets a distraction dictate his destiny. The illusion of winning an argument. Let us assume you give in to the provocation. You engage. You bring out your best logical points. You raise your voice just enough to establish dominance. You destroy their arguments one by one, and you leave them speechless. You won, right? Wrong. You lost the moment you engaged. Because what did it cost you? It cost you 20 minutes of your time. It cost you an enormous spike in cortisol and adrenaline that will take hours to wash out of your system. It ruined your focus for the rest of the afternoon. You feel drained, agitated, and exhausted. You traded your internal peace for a fleeting, hollow victory over someone whose opinion you do not even respect. This is the grand illusion of the ego. The ego tells you that you must prove them wrong to protect your honor. But true honor is not dependent on the validation of fools. When you win an argument against a provocateur, you have merely proven that you are better at rolling in the mud than they are. You are still covered in mud. The Stoic man understands that the only true victory is non-participation. By refusing to play the game, you remain clean, focused, and entirely in control of your own atmosphere, preparing your mind before you speak. The foundation of the exact phrase you are going to learn is not the words themselves. It is the physiological state you are in when you deliver them. If you say the right words but your voice is shaking, your face is red, and your eyes are darting around the room, the phrase will not work. It will look like a pathetic attempt to hide your fear. Therefore, the internal preparation is everything. When the insult hits you, your first job is to ground your physical body. Feel your feet on the floor. Drop your shoulders away from your ears. Unclench your jaw. Take a slow, imperceptible breath in through your nose, straight down into your stomach. This deep breath acts like a circuit breaker for your nervous system. It sends a biological signal to your brain that you are not in danger, which instantly lowers the panic response. While you are doing this, your internal monologue must shift. Instead of thinking, "How dare he say that to me?" you must think, "How fascinating that he feels the need to act this way." This subtle shift turns you from a victim into an observer. You are no longer the target of an attack. You are a scientist observing a bizarre biological specimen. This cold, detached mindset is where your true power lies. The delivery mechanics. Now that your internal state is calm and detached, we must focus on the delivery mechanics. How you look at the provocateur is just as important as what you say. Most people, when provoked, will either glare aggressively or look away in submission. Both are reactions driven by emotion. You will do neither. You will look at them with a relaxed, heavy, neutral gaze. Look directly into their eyes, or, if that feels too intense, look at the bridge of their nose. Your facial expression must be entirely blank. No anger, no fear, no sarcastic smile. You want your face to resemble a stone wall. This neutrality is terrifying to a person seeking conflict. They throw a punch of chaotic energy, expecting a reaction, and they hit a void. It is deeply unsettling. When you finally speak,
Your voice must be slightly lower in pitch than normal and completely devoid of emotion. You are not asking a genuine question.
You are not trying to be friendly. You are delivering a cold, hard boundary. The volume should be quiet enough that they have to stop talking and listen, but loud enough to be clearly heard. This combination of a relaxed body, a deadpan expression, and a low, steady voice establishes absolute, unquestionable dominance without you ever having to flex a muscle. The phrase itself. We have built the foundation. You understand the psychology, you have mastered the pause, and your physical delivery is locked in. Here is the exact phrase you will use when someone tries to provoke, insult, or belittle you. After holding their gaze in total silence for 3 full seconds, you will simply say, "Are you finished?" That is it. 3 words. Are you finished? No insults, no defensiveness, no explanation. Just a calm, flat, terrifyingly polite question. If they continue to rant, you let them. You do not interrupt. You wait until they run out of breath again. You wait another 3 seconds, and you repeat it, with even less emotion. Are you finished? If they say yes, you simply nod once, turn your back, and walk away. Or, if you are in a meeting, you smoothly transition back to the topic at hand as if they never spoke. If you want a slight variation depending on the context, you can use, "Is that all?" Or simply, "Okay." But the principle remains exactly the same. You are providing a verbal mirror. You are acknowledging that they made a noise, but you are absolutely refusing to engage with the content of that noise. You are treating their emotional outburst like a toddler throwing a tantrum in a supermarket. You observe it, but you do not join it. Deconstructing the phrase. Why does "Are you finished work?" so perfectly? Let us break down the psychology behind these 3 words. When a person provokes you, they are initiating a tug of war. They pick up one end of the rope and pull, expecting you to pick up the other end and pull back. The moment you argue, you pick up the rope. But when you ask, "Are you finished?" you are not picking up the rope. You are standing there, looking at them holding the rope all by themselves, and you are asking if they are done playing their little game. It completely short-circuits their brain. They have prepared for a fight. They have counter-arguments ready. They want the friction. But you offer absolutely zero resistance. You cannot fight a mist. You cannot punch water. By refusing to engage with the substance of their insult, you strip them of their power. Furthermore, the phrase subtly frames their behavior as an interruption, an annoyance, a childish outburst that you are patiently waiting for them to conclude. It elevates your status instantly. You become the adult in the room waiting for the child to tire themselves out. It is a masterclass in psychological dominance, disguised as a simple, polite question. The vacuum effect. There is a law in physics that nature abhors a vacuum. The same principle applies to human psychology. When a provocateur pushes aggressive energy toward you, they expect that energy to hit a solid object and bounce back as anger or defense. When you use the stoic pause and deliver the phrase, you create an emotional vacuum. The aggressive energy they threw at you has nowhere to land. It does not hit you because you did not react. It does not bounce back because you did not argue. So, where does that toxic energy go? It boomerangs straight back into them. This is the beautiful, ruthless efficiency of the vacuum effect. Because they cannot feed off your reaction, they are forced to swallow their own poison. Often, you will physically see them deflate. They will become flustered, their face might flush,
They will mumble something incoherent, or they will try to laugh it off awkwardly. They are drowning in the awkwardness of their own unreciprocated aggression. You have completely neutralized a threat without firing a single shot. You have let their own momentum defeat them. This is the way of the strong man. He does not destroy his enemies with force. He lets them destroy themselves against his unshakable calm. Real-world application, the toxic workplace. Let us take this out of theory and put it into the real world. You are in a corporate meeting. A manipulative coworker or a toxic boss tries to throw you under the bus. They make a snide, passive-aggressive comment about your work in front of the entire team. The old you would have immediately started defending the project, explaining your reasoning and sounding defensive and weak. The room would smell the blood in the water. But the new you, the stoic man, does something entirely different. You stop taking notes. You slowly look up. You lock eyes with the person who made the comment. You let the silence stretch for 3 painful seconds. The entire room holds its breath. Then, with a perfectly calm, flat voice, you ask, "Are you finished?" The person is stunned. They were expecting a defense, not a mirror. They might stammer out a yes. You nod once, look back at your notes, and say, "Moving on to the next quarter projections." You just executed a flawless display of executive presence. You did not validate that disrespect with a response, yet you clearly demonstrated that you cannot be intimidated. The rest of the team will instantly recognize who holds the true power in that room, and it is not the person who raised their voice. Real-world application, romantic relationships. The dynamic changes slightly when the provocation comes from a romantic partner, but the core Stoic principle remains absolute. Women will naturally test the strength of their man. This is a biological reality. Sometimes these tests manifest as emotional provocations, nagging, or attempts to start a dramatic argument over something trivial. If you lose your temper, if you start yelling back, you fail the test. You prove that your emotional foundation is weak. When your partner attempts to bait you into an emotional spiral, the worst thing you can do is engage in the chaos. Instead, you hold your masculine frame. You look at her calmly. You do not raise your voice. You wait for the emotional wave to crash, and then you say, softly but firmly, "Are you finished?" You are not being cruel. You are being an anchor. You are demonstrating that you will not be swept away by her emotional storm. When a woman sees that she cannot break your composure, that she cannot manipulate you into a rage, her respect for you deepens profoundly. True masculine authority in a relationship is not about ruling with an iron fist. It is about ruling your own mind with iron discipline. Real-world application, the street threat. What happens when the provocation is from a stranger on the street? A guy bumps into you at a bar and starts getting aggressive. A driver cuts you off and screams out his window. Here, the ego is screaming at you to act tough, to prove you are an alpha male, to step up and fight. But violence over a bruised ego is the lowest form of intelligence. It is how fools end up in prison or in the hospital over a spilled drink. The elite man understands the difference between a real physical threat and a pathetic ego display. If a stranger tries to provoke you, you use the exact same technique. You assess the situation calmly. You look them in the eye, devoid of fear or anger. You ask, "Are you finished?" If they continue puffing out their chest, you simply turn and walk away. Walking away is not cowardice. It is a supreme act of power. It takes incredible strength to tell your ego to shut up and to prioritize your freedom and your future over a momentary street clash. You are a man with a purpose, a family, and a vision. You do not risk your empire to wrestle with a peasant in the dirt.
Let them have their fake tough guy moment. You have a life to conquer. The myth of passivity. There is a dangerous misconception that must be destroyed right now. People often confuse stoic silence with weakness. They think that if you do not bark back, you are a doormat. This could not be further from the truth. Passivity is when you stay quiet out of fear. You swallow the insult because you are terrified of the confrontation. Your heart is racing, your stomach is tied in knots, and you feel defeated. Stoicism, on the other hand, is highly aggressive internal control. You stay quiet not out of fear, but out of total superiority. You are not swallowing the insult, you are rejecting it entirely. The provocateur can sense the difference. They can smell the fear in a passive man, and it makes them push harder. But when they encounter a stoic man, they sense a terrifying, unmovable presence. Your silence does not say, "Please do not hurt me." Your silence says, "You are not significant enough to warrant my energy." This is a dominant, powerful stance. You are a fortress of solitude. The arrows are bouncing off the stone. Never confuse the roar of a panicked animal with the quiet, deadly stillness of a king on his throne. Rebuilding your internal value metric. Why do words hurt in the first place? Why does an insult sting? It only hurts if, on some subconscious level, you agree with it, or if you value the opinion of the person speaking. If a 5-year-old calls you ugly, you laugh. You do not care because you do not value their assessment of your appearance. But if a co-worker implies you are incompetent, you get furious. Why? Because you have outsourced your self-worth to the people around you. You rely on external validation to feel good about yourself. To truly embody this stoic response, you must completely rebuild your internal value metric. A strong man derives his worth from his own actions, his own discipline, and his own adherence to his principles. He knows exactly who he is, what his flaws are, and what his strengths are. Therefore, when someone else offers an opinion about him, it is irrelevant data. It is like someone telling you that the sky is green. You do not get mad, you just realize they are delusional. When your self-worth is anchored deeply inside yourself, provocations lose all their venom. You stop seeking respect from the outside world, and you start commanding it simply by how you carry yourself. The energy economics of a strong man. Let us talk about energy economics. You only wake up with a finite amount of focus, willpower, and emotional bandwidth every single day. This energy is your most precious resource. It is what you use to build your wealth, improve your physique, lead your family, and achieve your goals. Now, imagine your energy is a bank account with $1,000 deposited every morning. When you let a provocateur anger you, when you spend 20 minutes arguing and 2 hours fuming about it afterward, you just handed that person $500 of your daily energy. You funded their chaotic existence with your hard-earned peace. This is terrible business. The stoic man is a ruthless auditor of his own energy. He refuses to spend a single dime on worthless investments. When someone tries to provoke you, look at them as a bad investment opportunity. By saying, "Are you finished?" and walking away, you are simply declining the transaction. You keep your energy in your own account. You walk away with your full capacity intact, ready to deploy it on things that actually move your life forward. Guard your focus fiercely. It is the currency of your success. The fear of looking weak. Let us address the elephant in the room, the male ego. Deep down, the reason you want to react aggressively to an insult is that you are terrified of looking weak in front of other men or in front of women.
Society has conditioned you to believe that the guy who shouts the loudest and throws the first punch is the alpha. But look closely at the men who are truly powerful. Look at top-tier CEOs, elite military commanders, and men of immense influence. Do they lose their temper when a subordinate steps out of line? Do they scream and shout on the street? No. They speak quietly. They move deliberately. Their power is implied, not broadcasted. Getting loud is a sign of panic. Losing your temper is a biological admission that you have lost control of the situation. True respect, the kind of respect that creates unwavering loyalty and admiration, is commanded through unshakable composure.
When everyone else is losing their minds and you are standing there utterly unaffected, delivering a calm, calculated response, you do not look weak. You look like a god among mortals. You look untouchable. And that is the ultimate flex of masculinity. The long game of Stoicism. This is not a quick fix or a neat little trick to use once and forget. This is about playing the long game of life. Every single time you successfully execute this response, every time you choose the pause over the panic, you are building psychological muscle. The first time you try to say, "Are you finished?" your voice might shake slightly. Your heart might still be pounding. That is normal. You are fighting decades of bad programming. But the second time, it will be easier. The 10th time, it will be natural. And after a year of operating this way, you will undergo a fundamental identity shift. You will no longer be a man who is trying to stay calm. You will become a naturally calm man. People around you will notice the change. They will sense that you are no longer easily manipulated. The toxic people will naturally filter out of your life because they can no longer feed off your reactions. The high-value people will gravitate towards you because they respect your solid foundation. The compound interest of staying calm over years is a reputation of absolute iron. You become the man people look to when the world is burning. Final integration and reflex training. Knowledge without application is just entertainment. You have the psychology, the physical mechanics, and the exact phrase. Now you must make it a reflex. I want you to mentally rehearse this scenario tonight. Close your eyes and visualize a person who frequently provokes you. See them saying the exact thing that usually boils your blood. Now, visualize yourself stopping, taking that deep, imperceptible breath, locking eyes with them, deadpan and neutral, and hear yourself saying calmly and powerfully, "Are you finished?" Do this 10 times in your mind. Build the neural pathway before the actual event happens. The world is going to test you, probably tomorrow. Someone will cut you off or a co-worker will make a remark. When it happens, recognize it as a test. It is not an attack, it is an opportunity to practice your new superpower. Step out of the emotion, observe the chaos, deliver the phrase, and watch their power crumble to dust at your feet. You are no longer a victim of circumstance or other people's emotional dysfunction. You are the architect of your own reality, and your peace is absolutely non-negotiable. The transition from a reactive boy to a stoic man is the most important journey you will ever take. You now possess the blueprint to neutralize disrespect and maintain total psychological dominance in any situation. Remember, the phrase, "Are you finished?" is not just a collection of words. It is a manifestation of your internal fortress. It is the ultimate proof that you cannot be bought, baited, or broken by the noise of the world. Do not let this knowledge fade. Start applying it the very next time someone tries to pull you out of your frame. I want to thank you for watching and for committing to your own evolution. If you found value in this deep dive into modern Stoicism, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a brother who needs to fortify his mind. Now,
I want to hear from the 1% who made it to the end. Drop a comment below and tell me, who is the first person you are going to use this phrase on? Or what situation in your past would have completely changed if you had known this technique? Stay strong, stay stoic, and never surrender your control.